So today we're talking about your purpose. Does anybody have a guess what your purpose is?
To help others.
To help others. No. No, she didn't. Yeah, that's kind of the reaction that I get when I ask that question. Is people kind of, I don't know. Many people don't know because they never really put any thought into it. Some don't know because they just didn't get it figured out after putting thought to it. Most people, when they do put thought to this, the answers they come up with are material things to do. What's your purpose? Help others. Be a teacher. Be a firefighter. It's to be something. And it's all thought of in the material realm. It's extremely important to know what your true purpose is. And the good news is I know the answer. So I'll fill you in as we go along today. I know what your purpose is. Oh, I'm not going to tease you anymore. Your purpose is to be the fullest expression of God that is your truth. That may come across and be expressed in these material ways. Helping people, being a firefighter, being a teacher, being something. But those are just the material expressions. Your truest expression, your truest experience of your purpose is to feel, to express that part of you that is one with God. There are some things that come into play when we start considering our purpose. We think from the material thought processes, or with the material thought processes, which leads us down that line of those material actions, the material results, the material this and that. There's nothing wrong with all those, like I said. But the problem with it is if we're in this material thought process thinking about our purpose, and a negative thought comes into our mind, we can get derailed. The problem with that is when we get derailed, we don't often always come back. And then we're just floundering around in life. Now, purpose is extremely important. I've already told you what your purpose is. And we say it here all the time. We're spiritual beings having this material, this human experience. We get that backwards. We think we're humans in search of our spiritual truth, in search of the spiritual journey. We're already spiritual. We already are fully spiritual. And when we get our thought process realigned with that truth, what I said about your purpose becomes very tangible. We can grasp hold of that. We can believe that. And then purpose becomes our foundation. It becomes our direction. It becomes a guide. When those negative thoughts come in, we've got our foundation. Boom, we don't get derailed. We can come back to our truth. If we don't know our purpose, this life journey that we're on it reminds me of somebody putting a blindfold on, telling you to start walking, and then trying to take a shot with a bow and arrow at a target that you never saw. Because life, it's scattered. Chances are, if you have done that, you've got this blindfold on, you've got this bow and arrow, and you have never seen the target, but you've walked out in this field and you pull back and let go, chances are you missed the mark. If we think of it that way, then if we are living life without knowing our purpose, or without understanding our purpose, or without claiming our purpose as our foundation, if we're living a life like that, we're living a life of sin, because sin is missed the mark. Okay? This all gets translated in some of the more traditional religions as sin being this evil thing. But when we look at the true definition of sin, it is missing the mark. It was an old bow and arrow term. So when I say you're living a life of sin, don't hear me up here like the old Baptist preacher saying you're going to hell. I'm saying that you just missed the mark. Okay? You're not evil. You're good. I believe that. We're all good. So back to, we are spiritual beings having an incredible human experience. When thinking of purpose, we often think of it as, like I said, as that material thing, that material action, that material result. I want you to, right now, get very clear that your purpose is not that. Your purpose is to live as a spiritual being having a human experience. This human experience does not override our truth. We often let it override. If we're sick, it's very difficult to stay in that spiritual place. If we're injured, it's very difficult to stay in that spiritual knowing. I'm hesitant on verbalizing some of this. We had a tool in a seminar that we taught, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it, even though I'm not supposed to say it. We called it Happy Ass. Happy Ass stood for happy, angry, sad, sexual. And then the list kept going on. But those are core feelings that we have. As human beings, we have these core feelings: happy, angry, sad, sexual. When those are kicked into high gear, they affect our entire thought process. Good, bad, or indifferent. They direct thoughts, they direct experiences, they direct emotions. On the human level, that's what's happening. So if we're seeing our human level as being the primary truth of us, then something that makes you happy, you're going to have a good day. Something that makes you angry, your day is going to kind of be bad. Sad. You're going to be like a balloon stuck, at the mercy of the wind. When we are knowing, realizing our spiritual truth, our purpose, that stays steady. Our spiritual truth is always love. You want to know what your spiritual truth is? Think about God. Do your best to define God. That's your spiritual truth. I say do your best because I tried to define God. I got very frustrated because every time I thought I had it, I realized there's more. And so I do some more, and there's more. And it just kept on and on and on. I got frustrated because I could not ever come up with a definition that I could sit in this chair and say, this is God. The closest I can come is God is all. Infinite. And just when you think you get to the absolute knowing of what God is, you open your eyes and there's more. That's your purpose. That's your truth. So knowing that, no matter what your human experience is, whether it's happy, angry, sad, sexual, whatever, love and peace and joy and gratitude and strength and oneness are the foundation supporting everything that you are experiencing. So your purpose, folks, is not to go be the greatest teacher ever. It's not to be the most loving person ever. It is to be the absolute perfect example and expression of God that is you in that moment. Now those key words there at the end, in that moment. If we were like Jesus and could be 100% awakened to our spiritual truth, to our purpose, to our essence, whatever you want to call it. If we were like Jesus and we could do that, then this human stuff wouldn't come into play at all. It would just be experiences that we were having on the material level, and it would not dictate our truth. It would not cause us to question our truth. But I don't know anybody other than what I've read about Jesus that has been able to do that. So, we have to be constantly reminding ourselves of what's really us. What is our truth? When you start forgetting what your purpose is, or if you don't want to believe me for what I say, and how dare you? No. I challenge you to just look at what you desire in life. Because see, your desires and your wants can be great indicators of what your purpose is, what's important to you, what resonates within you. Now, if you were brought up in some of the basic religions, you were taught that desires and wants were sins. They're of the human level, and you're not supposed to have these. I disagreed. And it took me a long time to realize why I disagreed and how I justified that disagreement. Here's what I know about wants and desires. No matter what they are. You know, if I asked you what you desire or what you want, we're going to have all kinds of things from a new car to peace on earth to a greater love. I mean, it's all over the place. But no matter what you come up with, whether it's from a spiritual place or a material place, it all leads back to truth. If, for instance, you wanted a new car, well, why do you want that new car? Your first answer might be because it's pretty. Okay? Why is that important to you? And we're going to go through all of these questions, and I will guarantee you that every single time that question is going to come down to, or that answer is going to come back to love. If we continued with the car, it's pretty. Okay? I want that because My family will be happy to jump in that. And you're going to work into that. Oh, it's safe. There's some safety features, because you'll start getting, when you're on that surface level, you start digging a little bit finally. Well, because it's safe. Oh, well, I want to have a way to transport me and my family from point A to point B in a safe fashion. Well, what does safety mean to you? It means that I am taking care of others. What does taking care of others mean to you? That I love. Now, that process, if I were to work with somebody on that, might take a while to get there. But by simply asking questions, you can do this of yourself on anything you want. If you think you want something that's frivolous, start asking why. Start digging. How important is it really? If you're able to just say, that's way frivolous, never mind. If you can do that real easy, let go of it. But if you keep going, it may be very, very important to you, and you're cheating yourself out of it. But anyway, we get back to, when we ask these questions, we get back to even those material desires and wants point us in the direction of our purpose. I want you to have as many ways to bring you back to your purpose as possible, because that, like I said, is a foundation. Now, none of this means stop living this material life. And there are so many teachings that tell us, don't do that for it's a sin, do this instead. That's not what this experience is all about, folks. This experience is about having this human experience. We just need to remember what our truth is. See, this is what Jesus did. Jesus walked through this life. 33 years on this earth, walking through this life, knowing truth. Now, I think just about every minister I've ever heard will preach that. Jesus knew the truth. Yet he didn't sin. Why didn't he sin? Because his thought processes were all aligned with his truth. Because see, that's all a sin is. It's a thought that is just out of alignment. But here in this society, if I go hang out with a prostitute, I'm going to be looked at as less than. Did Jesus? No. He hung out with her. He didn't say, you have got to become a Christian. Of course, there wasn't such a thing at that time. But he didn't tell her she had to change anything. He just said, stop doing what's not in alignment. It's not up to us to change anything. It's up to us to be the expression, to be the example of our purpose. That's all that Jesus did throughout his entire walk on this earth. He didn't condemn anybody. His healing was a perfect example of that. He didn't talk about the ailment. He called out the perfection. He called out the purpose, the truth. That's what we are to do. We are to know our purpose. We are to see that in everything. We are to see the good, the perfection in all. That's hard to do sometimes. And not a day goes by that I don't watch something on the news and get really upset. And then I stop myself. In the grand scheme of eternity, how important is this? How important is it for me to get upset and for me to ignore my truth, my purpose? I can tell you now that nothing is important enough to ignore your truth. To ignore your truth is the most out of alignment with God that you can be. When we talk about the omnipresence, omniscience, and omnipotence of God, and then we watch something on the news and we get upset and think that that's evil or that's horrible or whatever the case may be, we are stating God is not in that. That's hard. There's some things that I'm seeing on TV that it is really hard to realize God is in that somewhere. But if I'm to believe that God is everywhere present, all-powerful and all-wise, I've got to know that something about that is divine. I just don't see it. But what I want you to walk away from here today knowing is, you are a spiritual being having an incredible human experience. Do not stop being human. Just know that human is not your truth, your whole truth. Your whole truth is that you're a spiritual being. So experience this life, but experience it knowing your foundation, knowing your purpose, knowing that you are an expression of God. That God is in you, as you, through you. Your purpose is the continuous expansion of your experience and your expression of God. Any attempt to define the totality of your purpose is futile. So don't think that what you recognize now is all there is. Because I know there's some days that to look at my purpose, it looks like, oh, it's just tiny. Other days it looks bigger. But do not let your recognition of what is now be your totality, because it is ever expanding. It's infinite, just as God is. Allow your experience of your purpose to create your thoughts, not the other way around. Okay? That's difficult. Remind yourself constantly, no, that thought doesn't serve my purpose. Tune in. Tune in, because our thoughts, left unattended, do create our reality. So we can allow them to run wild and let the thoughts that are associated with the stuff we're seeing on TV, we can let those dictate our reality, or what we think's our reality, or we can control our thoughts. We can tune our thoughts in to align with truth and good, and let that dictate our reality. If you must think your way through all of this, do it in this way. Breathe in and experience love. Breathe in, experience peace. Breathe in and experience joy. Feel these completely within you. In doing this, you are experiencing God. You're experiencing God within. Once you feel the truth of God within, this love, this peace, this joy, think of how you can express it more fully in your life, for you and for others. That, folks, is how we expand our expression of our purpose. So let's close with prayer. Father God, knowing the omnipresence, omnipotence, and omniscience of you, we know all is good. All is love. All is peace. We now go within and connect with this truth. Embrace this truth. We experience this truth. We pause now and experience the good, the love, the peace that is God in us, that is God as us, and that is God shining through us. Knowing this truth, experiencing this truth, expressing this truth, we say, and so it is. Amen.